Howdy, YouTubes. So I'm going to go into some heavy spoilers here, but not until the very end of this video, and I'll let you know. That way you can exit if you wish, if you don't want the ending spoiled. And you can come back right here once you've seen the new Joker movie. Or maybe you don't care about spoilers, and in that case, just stick around. So Joker 2, Joker Folie is out, and while I really enjoyed the first one, I kind of, like many, was of the mind that it worked best as a one-off. In fact, like when it came out back in 2019, after the huge success that it had, some people started to think that maybe DC should just abandon making cinematic universes and just try to tell these Elseworlds, one-off stories. And, in the world that these movies take place in, it's, more kind of like our own. There aren't any superpowers, superheroes. But it also didn't really set itself up for any sequels. Like, how do you have the Joker without Batman? But Bruce Wayne in this universe is still just a kid. But then Joker went out and made $1 billion and became the highest grossing R-rated movie ever, at that time, till Wolverine and Deadpool passed it this year. So, Warner Brothers opened up their pocketbooks to Joaquin Phoenix and Todd Phillips, and 5 years later we have Joker 2. And I'm not going to be honest, I'm not really sure who this movie was made for or why, other than to just try to cash on the success of the first one. And maybe that is the only reason it exists. But, anywho, I was still excited for this movie, despite some of, the negative press. Like, I stay away from, reviews and spoilers, like always. But it's kind of hard to escape, the news of it not doing too well with critics or fans. But, let me start off, with some good. They tried something different, that's for sure. The first one was often compared to other movies such as Taxi Driver, King of Comedy, and they went into a completely different direction here. And Joaquin Phoenix gave it, another, really good performance here. He doesn't, definitely doesn't phone it in for a paycheck. But his performance might have been a little too similar to the first one for my taste. But as the movie went on, I kind of started liking it a little less, and the last 15 minutes or so kind of killed some hope I had for this one. But now, I believe in the story they said 2 years have passed since the events of the first film, I think they said. And, we start off with Arthur in Arkham, and he's back to, being the quiet Arthur Fleck, not so much the bold Joker we saw him turn into toward the course of the previous film. And, honestly, I was expecting at some point some of this side of Arthur to come out, to attack a fellow patient or one of the guards, just typical violent Joker stuff. But we don't really get that at all during the film, just a few imaginary sequences, Arthur said. But Arthur's awaiting trial for the murders he committed in the previous film. And his lawyer is basically trying to argue that the Joker is a separate personality and Arthur suffers from multiple personality disorder. And that the Joker personality committed the murders. And in Arkham, Arthur also meets Harley Quinzel, or as she is called in this movie for most part, Lee, played by Lady Gaga, who just expresses her admiration for the Joker, his actions and all. And, they have a romance leading up to his trial. But honestly, she's just kind of manipulating him. And I thought the movie could have used more Harley, lean more into the abuse and I guess how Arthur's been abused by different people his whole life. And despite all, the marketing, there was only a couple scenes that were, again, mostly imaginary, that we don't really get much Harley and Joker crime, And Harvey Dent is the DA pushing for Arthur to get the death penalty, but we don't really go into his character at all. It's kind of like a cool, name drop, Easter egg to tie in the comics. And, I questioned the decision to make this a musical when it was first announced, and after seeing it, it didn't really work for me, honestly. I'm not sure if all Lady Gaga movies have to be musicals, but it didn't really add much to the story or plot, that could have been done a different way. And, none of the songs actually really, or sequences really stuck out to me. I guess they look kind of cool, just the fantasy aspect of them, but they were just kind of forgettable, really, once you think about it. And just it seemed like they were just there to fill out the runtime. And there's not a whole lot here. It's just Arthur in Arkham or Arthur on trial. And there was one particular scene at the courthouse from a character in the first movie as a witness that really stuck out. But the trial for Arthur questions if Joker and Arthur are different personalities, and the movie actually started off with the cartoon sequence to suggest this, but that wasn't really something I was asking after the first one. We saw Arthur go through what he went through until his transformation into the Joker. Taking from the classic Batman story by Alan Moore, The Killing Joke. All it takes is one bad day, or continuous bad days to turn someone insane into a crazy killer like the Joker. And in the first movie, we saw Arthur just being down by the world until he goes on to Murray's show as the Joker and kills him in front of the live audience, and kind of unwittingly becomes a symbol for the oppressed in Gotham. That was definitely more interesting, if maybe like a bit twisted, but nonetheless, we saw Arthur change from the frail, weak Arthur Fleck at the beginning to the Joker, full of bravado, giving, as he put it, the world what it deserves. And after all that, it feels like we're just going backwards here, because Arthur's back to the weak Arthur Fleck, and we're told that there's no Joker, only Arthur. I didn't expect a traditional clown prince of crime here, but just knowing the kind of story that they're trying to tell, I was at least looking forward to the continuation of this Joker we met at the end of the first one. Said again, it feels like we're just going backwards to the Arthur we originally met, and it's like we're undoing the events of the first film, and kind of taking what people liked and doing the exact opposite. And, as we go further into Arthur Fleck's story, the further we go away from anything resembling the comic character stories. It's like Todd Phillips is purposely trying to show everything comic or joke related. But, this just undoing of development and characterization we saw in the first film kind of ruined it, and honestly, made me wish this movie wasn't made, or kind of detracted from the first film in some aspects. But now let me go on to the very end. So head out now. Last warning. So, right, 3, 2, 1. The movie ends with Arthur getting shanked and killed by another patient in Arkham, and we kind of see this kind of crazy looking patient a couple of times in the background of the film. And at the end, he comes up to tell Arthur a joke about a psychopath, obviously shoehorning himself in here, and a clown, obviously representing Arthur. And borrowing Arthur's line to Murray at the end of the first film, this inmate gives Arthur what he deserves and, just shanks and kills him. And, after he kills Arthur, we see and hear the other inmate, laughing maniacally and cutting a smile into his face. And I was, thinking we were about to meet, like the real Joker. Maybe this was all a, prelude to a traditional, Batman Joker, and to kind of make everything worthwhile. But instead, the camera just cuts to Arthur's face, and then the film ends. And I couldn't help but feel a little, bit unfulfilled after. Making Arthur's killer the actual Joker would, kind of change the whole complexion of the film for me. But that's probably not what they were going for. But I think if it done properly, and if it was hinted at more, it could have, kind of salvaged the film a bit and, made it more worthwhile for me. But it feels like we're just like going in a circle, because, the movie starts with Arthur in Arkham, and it just ends with him, dying in Arkham. And, just, again, feel a bit unfulfilled, and this sequel didn't really need to be made, honestly. I'll give it a 3 out of 10.